I don't really have anything prepared, but I would just say the folks that are over here, this is the community development staff for Richland County. And I'm the newest member of the team, just got here at the end of October, and I just want you to know you're in really good hands. That's a great group of people. They're so dedicated. We have remarkable resources to make investments in affordable housing, and we're really looking forward to getting some things off the ground very soon. So thank you.
Thank you very much on behalf of Adventure and our entire board, as well as Andy Marquardt, who's in Utah and was not able to meet with us. I want to extend an invitation to all of you to help celebrate our 20th anniversary in November. And I'd be remiss if I didn't do a shout out to Mayor Coble, who many years ago, good 25 years ago, was a part of a team that started identifying making Adventure a reality. So thank you very much, and thank you.
I agree. It's lovely to be here. Thank you so much for your support.
I think I'm the longest standing employee of the Richland Library. I have been there since 1986 and was there with Mr. Livingston. We had the bond referendum in '93 and then the most recent bond referendum. And I'm on my 38th year in the same job as the manager of the children and now teen department as well. And I have to tell you, there are children who have grown up and called me and said, we moved and we wish we had your library where we moved. And so many people who come here and say they've not seen a library like this or experienced it. And the children always ask me, how much do these books cost for me to take? My mama has a credit card. And I tell them it doesn't cost anything for you, but your mama bought these books with her tax dollars. So thank you, because you have supported the library for a long time, and it's beautiful and as it is because of you, and we are very grateful.
Chairman, thank you so much for an opportunity. I was told to be brief. They normally give me a binder to speak from. Tonight, I was given a 3x5 card to make sure I was staying. So I just want to express my appreciation for the unwavering support of Richland County for our military families and children. Children are indeed our future, and because we have a future to care about, we have a reason to build a better tomorrow. At Fort Jackson, we make American soldiers. We recruit and train soldiers, but we retain families. The military child is a source of these parents' strength. They're the purpose of our service. Thank you for tonight's recognition, the recognition of this month, the recognition of military children. Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 6, approval of the minutes, specifically item 6A, the regular session from April 4th, 2023. Any changes, additions, or deletions? You recognize Mr. Branham?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I got one area where I wanted to request a change, and I did speak with ACA Jensen before the meeting, and he was in agreement on page 3 of the minutes, which is page 13 of the agenda of the packet. The second and third lines of the graphic overall process and current place, it just needs to be modified so that it matches up with the slide that was presented at the meeting and which is found in this packet on page 24. Those two line items just got mixed up in the wording. But again, it just needs to reflect the content of page 24, overall process and current place. And then the second item is on that same page, just halfway down under zoning map recommendations, just for purposes of clarity. The last 3 line items of that section are AG, HM, and RT. And the motion would be to amend the HM line item so that it says that it's for over 3 acres and less than 35 acres. Just so there's no question about any properties that hit right on that 3-acre line of demarcation and the 35-acre line of demarcation. That reflects the motion as it was made with the Planning Commission and adopted by the Planning Commission. And again, I reviewed this with Mr. Jensen previously, and he was in agreement. So that's my motion.
Madam Clerk, the motion, is that specific enough regarding the minutes?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fair enough. All right, and it's a motion to amend the, motion to approve the minutes as amended. It's been moved to second by Ms. Newton. Any discussion or questions? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 7, adoption of the agenda. Any changes, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Mr. Wright?
under executive session, I would like to add C, opioid litigation update.
Additional changes or additions to the agenda? Okay. At this time, I entertain a motion to adopt the agenda as amended.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
All right. It's
Second.
been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 8, report of the attorney for executive session items. We have 3 items for executive session tonight. Item 8A, which is Alvin S. Glenn Detention Center. Item 8B, Allen University property request. And item 8C, opioid litigation. Mr. Wright, do you know if any of these items involve outside counsel?
No, neither item have outside of council, but all are under section 30-4-70 of the South Carolina Code, subsections A2.
So, well, considering that none of these items involved outside counsel, is there any objection or opposition to us proceeding with the remainder of the agenda and then coming back to these items for the second executive session? All right. Next item on the agenda is item 9, citizens input. This is for items on the agenda not requiring a public hearing. Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair, no individual signed up.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is item 10, citizens input. Must pertain to Richland County matters not on the agenda. Items for which a public hearing is required or a public hearing has been scheduled cannot be addressed at this time. Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have 2 individuals that signed up to speak under this category.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Mr. Racio?
I believe that I gave someone poor advice. They wanted to speak to a public hearing item, and I believe I instructed them to sign up on the sheet that Ms. Mackey has now. So, yes, did you sign up on the one that Ms. Mackey is? I don't know. Okay.
Mr. Racio, was it for an item that requires a public hearing?
Yes, and the public hearing is tonight.
Okay, well, I think, under 9A, that would be for items, not requiring a public hearing. So if he's under 10A, it has to be for matters not on the agenda. And if a public hearing has been scheduled, can that be addressed at this time? But Madam Vice Chair?
I think we're good.
Okay, all right,
I think we're good, Mr. Ratio.
okay.
I think so, yes. All right, the first individual is Lee Lumpkin. Okay. If you come down, please, and state your first and last name, as well as your address. You'll be given 2 minutes.
My name is Lee Lumpkin. I live at 21 Heathwood Circle. Hello, everybody. I'm so happy to see you and so appreciative for everything you've been to my ballet. In 1996, I joined Columbia Classical Ballet under Radenko Pavlovich, who was its founder. So I'm a very, very lucky woman to be now still part of this ballet as we welcome Brooklyn Mack, who is a renowned dancer all over the world, who is right now at Ballet Met dancing, and who has just become our, not interim, but our real artistic director. He is actually a product of our mission. We are known for our great outreach. And when he was 12 years old, he came to a ballet at the Great Coker Center and wanted to take dance. He'd never been to a ballet. And now he is the face of ballet all over the world. I just want you to know that Columbia Classical Ballet has guested free of charge over 5,560 people just this season at the Coker Center. Head starters, young people, seniors, and we actually have 2 groups that are my special favorites, your adaptive recreation, your fabulous adults with special needs. 120 are at the Coker for every show we have, and also our Russian families that are host to the Ukrainians. 120 for every ballet. And I guess what I want to say, it's that reminder that sometimes when life is not so gentle for some of us, what 2 hours of ballet can really mean. It is a fabulous thing. You have helped make this ballet happen. And I'm here today because we're all over the place. We've just been at your International Ballet Gala, at your festival that was so amazing at the fairgrounds. We have been at Bluff Road Park for the Valentine Jamboree that was amazing. We're going to be at Richland District June 1 and 2. And we're known for our outreach is unparalleled. We have amazing artistry, but we're also a wonderful tourist component because we have 9 countries represented in our ballet troupe. So I'm here to say thank you.
Time, Ms. Lumpkin.
Thank you so much. Just please don't forget us. We still need you. Thank you so much.
Next is Richard Evans. If you would, state your first and last name, as well as your address, and you have 2 minutes.
Richard Evans, 3108 Patton Road. Good evening. I'm here talking about the Trash Recycle Center at Eastover. I talked to my council member, Ms. Newton, about it. We have some changes that they say that no one that has a trailer over 6 foot can dump there. If you look on your phones or if you look at the trailers, the standard trailers are over 6 foot tall, 6 foot long. You don't have a trailer that's too much available that you can put anything to move from your home to the recyclable center that's under 6 foot. I will ask for the board to reconsider that. The 2 young men that are working out there in Eastover, they're only doing what they was told. Okay, but I usually take trash out there, clean up around the house, put tree limbs that's fell in the yard. They would take it on the back of a 7 foot truck, but you won't take it on a 7 foot trailer. That's kind of difficult for me, but I do have some pictures here of some trailers, and I do have a picture here of my truck. Whenever I go out there tomorrow, whenever I get off from work, he'll let me take it off my truck. But if I drive my trailer out there, you can't dump that here. You got to go somewhere else. The rules has changed. I'm under 2 minutes. I'm good. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Chair, that concludes all individuals that have signed up to speak this evening.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Next item on the agenda is item 11, report of the county administrator. Mr. Brown, you are recognized, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of council. In your packet, it's going to cover a few items. Some of the updates for consideration have already been discussed. There was an acknowledgement of Fair Housing Month, the Land Development Code community meetings, which have been held, and that process is still undergoing. We mentioned the last meeting, the Ag and Art Tour, which is scheduled to start. So that is a tourism opportunity for individuals to participate in with agribusiness. And in terms of the other information in your packet, you will notice there is listed a few items. Those are all ideally communication plans, and those plans are designed to give you an opportunity to look at mechanisms that we plan to use to address these particular items. And the design is for you to be able to give us feedback. You don't necessarily have to do it in the form of this meeting, you can, but you to give us feedback. So for example, maybe you have community members who don't watch TV, who don't use social media, and who don't go to the internet. And you say, well, Mr. Brown, I need another mechanism to reach them. Maybe you speak at various clubs in your communities, and that's really the only way that these certain constituents of yours receive information. So we want to show you some of the methods that we're trying to use to communicate and make sure that we're able to attack your issues, as well as deal with issues where the county has to move multiple projects along and maybe things got lost in the shuffle. So there are people who just now are understanding changes have been made and they want to know, what's going on. For example, a question that I received was about the redistricting plan that's listed. That does not mean we're going through redistricting again. That's been done. But that may mean that you have individuals who are just now recognizing that it's possible that there were changes, that they were close to lines, that their council member may have changed. And so this gives us an opportunity to go back out and just make sure people are duly informed. And ideally, these sort of plans will come to the council through this mechanism, again, to give you an opportunity to give feedback so that we can make sure we are doing the job that we need to do to reach individuals. So the process that we hope to implement is a ready dialogue so that my staff recognizes that there are conversations that happen with the body and it is a normal, natural process. So with that being said, Mr. Chair, I'll just pause there to see if there are any specific comments related to any of those items before we touch anything else.
Mr. Pugh, you recognize, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Administrator, I just want to say thank you for this communication piece on 4A through C. Those are some very hot topics in our community, and I think it's important that we disseminate that information the proper way so folks will know who their representative is, and also ordinances that have changed and the rental property agreements that we have voted on in the past. So thank you for you and your staff making sure this information gets out the right way.
Ms. Newton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Mr. Administrator, and thank you to staff for preparing this and sharing this. And so I know it's in the works, but just since the Land Development Code was one of our topics today, and we're also talking about communications plans, just want to make sure that we include the Land Development Code as we are preparing. And as part of that, one of the things that I would like to specifically request as it relates to the Land Development Code is a frequently asked questions, or FAQ. There's a lot of information, and while we all have constituents who will spend the many, many hours to look at every page, and I know at least one of them is here tonight, if we can have cheat sheets and simple information for those people who can just hop in and get the answers to their questions, I think it would be very important as we move forward. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Additional questions or comments on, items 11A 1 through 4? All right, Mr. Brown, you may continue.
Okay, yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I'll move on. So the next set of items that we have are listed under the administrator's nomination, and I'll start in reverse order. Item 3 is actually not going to be considered by the council. I did receive a request from the chief magistrate that item not be considered. So we won't take any action under the administrator's nomination related to item 3. Starting back up at the top with the solicitor's office, give you a brief background. I do have the solicitor here in case you have specific questions, but want to point out firstly that this particular project has actually already been vetted by the committee and council. If you recall, it was funded by the American Rescue Plan Act dollars. I know it's been some time ago since we've done this, but both the county committee and county council has already approved funding for this project. What you have now in our routine process is that even though council will fund an item, whenever there's a contract, you've asked that that contract come before you. So that is an internal process that is implemented here. In this particular situation, what you have is a time sensitivity issue related to the implementation of this software. So the solicitor is asking, instead of sending this back through now the A&F committee for contract purposes, that in order for him to implement this in a timely fashion, not incur additional cost, and not get pushed back in the queue and have delayed implementation, that this body allow for the contract to be signed so that he does not have to lose out on getting this implemented. So want to give that background just to communicate that this item has been through a vetting, but for contract purposes, you always ask that contracts come back to you regardless of if you've already seen it and generally approved the information. So while that's not required, it is something that you do. So the nomination and the recommendation of the administrator is to approve the solicitor's request, but we certainly have him and I here to answer any questions you have related to this request.
Brown, a motion is needed tonight from council.
That is correct, to approve this item.
Okay.
Mr. Chair.
Recognize Mr. Wright.
And I would want to let the council know that the contract has gone through my office and been reviewed. The changes were made, and it's been approved by my office.
Tracy, I saw you reaching for your microphone. You're recognized.
I was just going to make a motion to approve.
Second.
Soundedly moved to second. Any discussion?
Mr. Chair.
You recognize Mr. Weaver.
So I'm just curious as to what exactly we're voting on. The procurement of the contract, or is that what we're approving?
You're
I'm not
approving
sure.
the execution of the contract.
Okay. Has the contract already been approved by council prior?
No, sir.
No. Okay. That's what we're approving tonight.
Yes, sir, the contract. You've approved the funding, you've
Okay.
approved the project, you've seen the details of the project.
Okay.
But now you're actually approving the contract itself,
Okay.
which is a process, again, internally that Richland County does, which is not a required process, but
Okay.
it is something that this council sees fit to do.
All right. And second question, and the funding is coming from the ARPA funds, is that correct?
Partially funded by ARPA and partially funded by another source, so the project is funded.
Okay. That's it, Mr. Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Weaver. Any additional questions or discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, let's take the vote.
Branham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Newton,
Yes.
English. Motion approved.
And Mr. Brown, is a motion for reconsideration
It is
required?
appropriate, yes, sir.
Move to reconsider.
Second. Moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No?
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Thank
Brown, you
Thank you,
recognize.
Mr. Chair. The last item, you may recall, we had some conversation about some of our HUD-related funds and us going through a process of getting those funds audited. What we have before you right now is a request to allow us to extend a task order to use Moss and Adams to complete a portion of this process for us. The details are outlined, and I can cover those here in a moment in the briefing document. I believe it's on page 47 of your packet. But these particular programs are designed so that we can make sure that we are in compliance with HUD. As you can see right there in the summation, these particular audits are highly specialized accounting activities that are inherent in administering federal grants in excess of $750,000. Moss Adams will assist the county with meeting requisite timeliness and accuracy requirements for the HUD CDBG Disaster Recovery Mitigation Program, as well as the Emergency Rental Assistance Program and Public Assistance Programs. And if you look at page 47 of your agenda packet, I can get there real quick, it'll give you just a little bit more detail. So if you wanted to, I think that was page 47.
47.
Okay. It will give you some of the details related to the work associated with this. So just want to let you know that that scope of work is listed there in the packet, and it reflects the work that will be done. So again, this is one of those timeliness items, and we want to be able to move forward with this so that we could have compliance with HUD and feel confident that the funding that we are utilizing is done appropriately and in compliance with federal guidelines. So that's why this request is before you tonight. So I am asking in this particular instance for you to approve the request.
Any questions or comments from the body? Mr. Livingston, then Councilman Weaver. Okay, Councilman Weaver after Mr. Livingston.
Mr. Brown, this is a question more related to procurement. Now, this is, what we're doing is we're expanding an existing contract.
That's correct. We're extending the contract. We're adding what, and we call it a task order. And so we're adding to that already procured process. Yes, sir.
Weaver?
Mr. Brown, the fee here that's mentioned, 70 to 100,000, how are we paying for that?
So these funds are associated with funding that's already within the program. So I believe if you look on page, I'm trying to get to you because it's listed there related to the funding source. So it says right there under fiduciary that this is not a requesting any additional funding, that it's in the current fiscal year budget for the department. That is on page 41, I believe, of the briefing document.
Basically, is it county money or is it federal money?
No, it's county. It's
County
county
money?
fund. It's funds that are within the
Okay.
county's coffers.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Additional questions or discussion on this item? All right,
Chair, move to approve.
Second.
properly second. Any additional discussion or questions? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham,
I'm going to abstain. My daughter's scheduled to work for Moss Adams this summer.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Chair, move for reconciliation.
Second.
Well, we're in reconsideration. So any questions or discussion? And Mr. Wright, you recognize.
Yes, I just wanted to say that, I guess for the record, Mr. Branham is recusing himself. It's not abstain, because I think we're not allowed to, or you're not allowed to abstain, so it's recuse yourself because
Thank
of
you.
it. Thank you. That's all.
You noted. All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Recused.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No.
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Mr. Chair, the last thing I'll share is not listed here in your briefing document, but I believe it's inappropriate for an update. I, on behalf of County Council, County Administration, submitted to the Department of Corrections a response to a letter that we received. It was timely submitted. Also submitted a supplemental response to additional questions that were raised. And on tomorrow, I'll be spending some time in the morning, roughly around 9:30. We received a lot of requests for information concerning this matter, and I believe it would be appropriate to just simply address the multiple groups that may be interested. And so therefore, I'll be having a news conference at 9:30 here on the fourth floor conference room. So you are more than welcome to, be around the area. But just want you to know that that's why we're not going to the details tonight. There's a lot of information to cover, and we believe that people will generally be asking questions, so we want to make sure there's plenty of time to address that. So we will also be then releasing that information, that anything that can be released and not be redacted, we will release so that that information is available. We've also shared that information with the Department of Corrections. And that concludes my report, unless there are any questions.
Questions for Mr. Brown on that final item? All right, there being none, thank you, Mr. Brown.
Thank you.
Next item on the agenda is item 12, report of the Clerk of Council. Madam Clerk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman Walker. A reminder that on April the 20th, from 3 to 5, we have the Enterprise Funds Budget Work Session. The work session is scheduled to be held here in the council chambers. You have received materials for that work session. They are in your dais, so please make sure to take it with you. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Questions for the clerk regarding her report? All right, next item on the agenda is item 13, report of the chair. At this time, the chair does not have any updates or announcements for the body. Next item on the agenda is item 14. It's our open and closed public hearings. Item 14A, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park, jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits to Verve Columbia Blossom LLC, a company previously identified as Project Subtext, and other related matters. That public hearing is now open. Madam Vice Chair, anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
That public hearing is now closed. Next item on the agenda is item 14B, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park, jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits to Sequino RC LLC, a company previously identified as Project Sequino, and other related matters. That public hearing is now open. Madam Vice Chair, anyone signed up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
That public hearing is now closed. Next item on the agenda is item 14C, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and incentive agreement between Richland County, South Carolina, and FN America LLC, a project previously identified as Project Charlie Echo, to provide for payment of a fee in lieu of taxes, authorizing certain special source credits and other related matters. That public hearing is now open. Madam Vice Chair, anyone signed up to speak?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The first person is Regina E. Williams. If you would, state your first and last name as well as your address, and you'll be given 2 minutes to speak.
Good evening. Evening. My name is Regina E. Williams, 3517 and 3529 White Street, Columbia, South Carolina, 29203. I'm here to speak against tax dollars or any fees in lieu of going to F&N Manufacturing. First, let me say that I am not against lawful possession of firearms. So let me get that out of the way. but there's been a horrible increase in gun violence. There is also not enough consistent technical assistance to help organizations in our communities who work with the children to work with the children that may be affected by this gun violence. My other organization that I work with has technical assistance, and we've been able to do a very good job with the monies that you all have given us. But I want to say that the Sheriff's Department had to come before you to ask for money to increase salaries. The coroner said, hey, wait a minute, don't forget about us. Yet companies and nonprofits who work with our children and who don't have the wherewithal to write grants and receive monies are not receiving these monies. But we're giving something to this gun manufacturing company who will have guns not only in the city of Columbia, locally and worldwide. And believe you me, they will find their ways back into the hands of the citizens and the children and the youth of Booker Washington Heights, the Colony, Bayberry, those areas. I'm asking you, please do not help this company until we can get a balance. You can't give this company that's sending this stuff into my neighborhood monies, but then there are other organizations that are trying to help us.
Ms. Williams, that is your time. Thank you.
You're not giving them anything. Thank you.
Next is Mark Talbert. If you would, state your first and last name, address, and you have 2 minutes.
My name's Mark Talbert, 3608 Baywater Drive, Columbia, South Carolina, 29209. Can I start? Good evening, Chairman Walker and Vice Chair Mackey and County Council members. I've come tonight to ask you to vote no on Project Charlie Echo. I want to begin by thanking the council for trying to provide economic opportunities to the people of Richland County. But I think we need to pause for a moment. We have a real emergency, gun emergency in Richland County, DEFCON 4. We need to increase our collective awareness of the amount of stolen guns in our community. We have an epidemic of irresponsible gun ownership in our community. I cannot look the children in my community in their eyes and tell them that we are safe within my community of Pine Lakes. I can't do it. If I did, I would only be lying. At my last community meeting, we found out someone in Pine Lakes left their gun in their car and it was stolen. This epidemic is very real for the children of Pine Lakes. Right here in Columbia, South Carolina, we are third in the nation in Columbia of people leaving their guns in their cars and them being stolen. Can any of us truly say to the parents in our community in Richland County that our children are safe? We are third behind Memphis and Chattanooga, Tennessee. To paraphrase our Sheriff Leon Lott, what's increased is the number of kids who have guns. They are using these guns. It scares the death out of him. Well, it scares the death out of me too, Sheriff Lott. These adults are leaving their guns in their cars and they are falling into the hands of unsupervised children. These kids grow up having a number of hardships right now. We, as the adults, must be a responsible party and do something to solve this epidemic. All of us, every single adult. We adults have a responsibility and responsible gun owners in Richland County must be the solution to an epidemic of unsupervised children stealing guns from irresponsible gun owners.
Thank you, Mr. Talbert. That is your time. Next is James, is it Starnes? If you would, state your first and last name and address, and you have 2 minutes.
Good evening, I'm James Starnes, 1001 Denton Drive. I love it when I don't have to come first. I can associate myself with everything said by the two previous speakers. And if they were wrong about everything, let me offer you the other side. The other side being we have a gun manufacturer coming to make money in Richland County. The elders used to say, good meat makes its own gravy. If you come, I know that gun manufacturer is making a profit. We as citizens, at least the ones I've been speaking with, are not interested in being in the gun-making business. We thank you so much for your patience, your tolerance, and your interest in hearing from those of us who benefit from your service. But we ask you tonight to vote no for the reasons that have been stated, and because we believe that a business coming to operate in this county should stand on its own. We don't know how many of their employees are from Richland County or from surrounding counties. We don't see the benefit. I am affiliated with a number of nonprofits. We would love to have some of this money that we have, but let's please not give it to this gun manufacturer. I don't believe the results of that would be adverse to us. You've done some wonderful resolutions earlier. That represents what's great about Richland County, and I'm afraid that this would not. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, that concludes all individuals that have signed up to speak this evening.
Okay, thank you. Public hearing is closed. Next item on the agenda is item 14D, authorizing the transfer of certain real property owned by Richland County and located in the North Point Industrial Park to Osmium Development Group, a project previously identified as Project Osmium, and other matters related thereto. That public hearing is now open. Madam Vice Chair, anyone sign up to speak?
No, Mr. Chair.
That public hearing is now closed. Next item on the agenda is item 15, approval of consent items. Item 15A, case number 22-040MA. Name of the applicant, Mark Meadows. This is a request to rezone, change the zoning designation from rural to general commercial. It's 1 acre of land, location 311 Killian Road, TMS number R14781-04-10. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Ms. Newton?
move to approve items 15A through F.
Second.
Moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 16, third reading items. Item 16A, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County. The execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits to Verve Columbia Blossom LLC, a company previously identified as Project Subtext, and other related matters. At this time, I entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham, I'm sorry.
Yes.
Brenham, Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
I'm recusing myself due to my parent company representing this business.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 16B, authorizing the expansion of the boundaries of the I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park, jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County. The execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits to Sequino RC LLC, a company previously identified as Project Sequino, and other related matters. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
I'm recusing myself due to my parent company representing this business.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is,
I'm
I'm
sorry, I
sorry,
move motion reconsideration for that item,
for item 16B.
16B.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride. No. Livingston.
No.
Teratio,
No?
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
Used?
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 16C, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and incentive agreement between Richland County, South Carolina and FN America LLC, a project previously identified as Project Charlie Echo. Provide for payment of a fee in lieu of taxes, authorizing certain special source credits and other related matters. At this time, I entertain a motion.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's moved to properly second. Any discussion? You recognize Ms. McBride?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, I want to speak to the public. I want to make it clear that I'm going to vote no, but my vote is not about whether you can purchase a gun or not. My vote will not be about the Second Amendment. I am voting no because I think that it is wrong to use taxpayers' dollars to incentivize a company that will be selling guns commercially. I have no problems if that company wants to sell guns, then it's fine. But do not use taxpayers' dollars. Not only that, this is not the first time that we have incentivized this company. When do we stop having corporate welfare? When do our taxpayers' monies stop going to big corporate companies? At some time, they must take the responsibility of hiring and selling their products and not expect poor people that are out there working every day trying to make ends meet. And then we give these corporate companies, particularly this one that's making guns, selling it commercial, money to do it. Not that Richland County has not been very good to corporate companies, and it is sometimes necessary to incentivize these companies. But in this case, when do we say no?
Right, let me stop you just for a second. My apologies. I'll allow you to continue. But I'm going to ask those that are in the gallery to keep your comments to yourself. I know that this is an issue where people are passionate on both sides of the aisle, but we do maintain a certain level of decorum in this chamber. So I'm going to ask that you keep your comments and your sentiments to yourself. And if you cannot do that, then I'm going to politely ask you to leave the chamber. Ms. McBride, my apologies. You have the floor.
problem.
Continue on, please.
Again, this is not about gun control. This is about using taxpayers' dollars to incentivize the sale of guns. Right here in Richland County, we had over 35 guns within less than 6 months within our schools. But this is not about that. It is the use of taxpayers' money that I'm discussing right now. So I'm told that they're going to bring 100 new jobs. Thousands of lives are being lost. But more than that, again, I emphasize Richland County citizens' money, because the 100 new jobs that they're bringing in Richland County, we don't know who gets those jobs. We don't know whether they're going to Lexington or wherever they're going. So when you hear, oh, we're getting 100 new jobs in Richland County, don't think your next door neighbor or other citizens in Richland County are getting these jobs, because we don't know. So that is the reason why I will vote no,
because I don't want to use the hard-earned money that people work for to use it to incentivize this. I have no issues with them hiring 100 people or whatever, or even selling the merchandise. That's not my issue. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Ms. McBride. Any additional questions, or you recognize Ms. Teresa?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll be brief, and I appreciate the comments by Ms. McBride as well, and I appreciate the public speaking up on this matter. We are horrified regularly about mass shootings. We are horrified regularly about just day-to-day shootings in our communities. These are exacerbated by some of the very loose laws that are being pushed by the gun lobby at our state house. And those same lobbyists work at the federal level to prevent any sort of common sense gun regulation that the vast majority of the American public, regardless of their political party, do support. So putting more dollars in the hands of these gun manufacturers is not something that I will be able to support now or ever. Thank you.
Additional comments or discussion on this item? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
I'm recusing myself due to my parent company representing this business.
English,
No.
Newton.
Nope.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 16D, authorizing the transfer of certain real property owned by Richland County and located in the North Point Industrial Park to Osmium Development Group, a company previously identified as Project Osmium, and other matters related thereto. I entertain a motion.
So move for approval, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes?
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Any of these items need to be reconsidered? Item 16D. All right.
Mr. Chair,
You recognized Mr. Wright.
I believe items A and D need to be reconsidered.
All right.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride,
No.
Livingston,
No.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No.
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
I'm recusing myself because we included A.
English,
No.
Newton.
Nope.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda, item 17, second reading items. 17A, authorizing the execution and delivery of a fee in lieu of ad valorem taxes and incentive agreement by and between Richland County, South Carolina, and Project Armitage to provide for payment of a fee in lieu of taxes, authorizing certain infrastructure credits and other related matters. I entertain a motion.
So move, Mr. Chair.
Second.
It's moved to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English, Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Item on the agenda is item 18, report of the Economic Development Committee. That would be provided by the Honorable Paul Livingston. Mr. Livingston, you recognized.
Item 18A, authorize expansion of the boundaries of I-77 Corridor Regional Industrial Park jointly developed with Fairfield County to include certain property located in Richland County, the execution and delivery of a public infrastructure credit agreement to provide for public infrastructure credits to Project Urban Renewal. The committee's recommendation is for approval.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
That completes the report of the economic.
Thank you, Mr. Lib. Next item on the agenda is item 19, report of the Rules and Appointments Committee. That would be given by the Honorable Gretchen Barron. Councilwoman, you recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have several appointments coming out of committee. The first one is for the Board of Zoning Appeals, which has 4 vacancies, and it is a recommendation of the committee to re-advertise for these vacancies.
You've heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Barron, you still have the floor.
The next appointment is for the Township Auditorium. This is a reappointment. This is also the incumbent, and the committee is recommending for reappointment Mr. Carlos Givens Jr.
Recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham, Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
At the floor, Ms. Barron.
So the next item does not have a recommendation from the committee. However, we wanted to bring this to full council to get input, and that is, this was an item that was sent to us, a motion, and it states, prior to Rules and Appointment Committee interviewing applicants to serve on existing vacancies, council members serving as a liaison on the boards, commission, or committee should provide the Rules and Appointment Committee with an update on the current needs that the particular board is trying to fill, including but not limited to qualifications, expectations. The council members should make an effort to attend those interviews. So we just would like input from council, how they would like to proceed with this item.
And Ms. Barron, I guess after hearing input from council, will any action be required tonight, or this is just solely for discussion?
It is for discussion. However, if this body chooses to move forward with an action item, we do accept that.
All right, floor is open. Ms. Teratio, you recognized.
Thank you. For my first term, I was not assigned to rules and appointments, but I was liaison to several organizations, and so did attend a lot of rules and appointments committees meetings as a non-voting member of that committee. So I do realize how important it is to have a handle on what, you know, the board that you're serving with and who and what their needs are. You noticed that we use the word should, and so I think that is not shall, so it's not an enforced thing. But perhaps we can improve the wording just a little bit and have the council member work with the executive director or board chair along with our staff in order to fill in the Rules and Appointments Committee members on what they're looking for. So that's the only change that I would make, is that it not just be the council member, but that we work with staff and the board itself, or commission itself.
You and then Ms. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And-
I think this is a wonderful idea. I think we should help Rules and Appointment carry the ball a little bit. We have fumbled the ball on a few items that have come through that committee. In the past, I have always said that I think it's important whenever we have hot topics in any committee that a council member feels strongly about, that they should take it upon themselves to make sure that they attend those specific committees to make sure that they're voicing their opinions in those committees, and we're not waiting till we get the full council to have our questions answered or ask or make statements towards whatever comes out of committee. So I want to commend whoever put this on the docket, because I think it's important for us to make sure that we show up when something is on our hearts and minds. Thank you.
Ms. McBride and Ms. English. Ms. McBride?
Oh, yeah. Trying to really get a clear understanding. I think it's two parts to this. One part would be to invite council to the meetings to discuss the needs of the committee that they're serving on. Is that part of it?
Mr. Chair.
And you recognize Ms. Barron.
So the intent is that we get input from the council members, whether you choose to attend a meeting or you send an email. We're not tying your hands with that. We're just wanting your input as you are the liaison representing council on those different boards, commissions, and committees.
Okay, thank you. I have concerns about mandating and putting certain things in policy. And this is one of them. This has been an issue that has come up several times since I've been on council. I see no problems with the council member being encouraged to provide information to the committee. But to mandate or to state it in law as required, I have issues with that. The second part, sometimes we have unintended negative consequences based on rules that we're making. So we look at starting to limit the qualifications and expectations of these citizens that we're recommending to serve on these boards, then we could get into an exclusionary type situation. So I'm concerned because many of the members that are serving now on committees, they may not have had the expertise in the area, but they were interested. That's why they're serving. And all these committees and boards, they have staff. So if there's an area of expertise needed, they do have the staffs. But what our volunteers and our citizens have, they bring their commitment and interest, and some even experience. So I am very, very reluctant to let anyone tell council the qualifications that are needed. Because if we look at county council now, we're elected officials, but if it was stated that we had certain qualifications, some of us may not be on the board if we try to diversify our qualifications. So I'm really concerned that this could be something that we encourage people to do, but to mandate it or put it in a policy, I cannot accept that.
Mr. Chair, may I?
Recognize Ms. Barron.
Thank you. So to your point, Ms. McBride, qualifications and skill set, those items have already been set. They're already been set. Some of them have been set by ordinance already or by state law for many of these boards, commissions, and committees. Last year, we spent a lengthy bit of time just going over overviews of each board, each commission, and each committee, and what the time restraints were, qualifications, and this body voted on those items. So qualifications and those things that concern you are really not a concern, because we've already, some of those they're just blanketed. We don't have an input on those. So with the intent of this discussion is to really look at it, since you are the liaison, what are the specific needs that we should look for when interviewing? And that's the basic intent, not necessarily to put the citizens in a box to say, we want only this type of person. That's not the intent of it. And I do hear you when you say about putting things in policy and such. This could just be one of those things that could just be a good practice for us. And so that's why it came out of committee without a recommendation, because we had this same discussion as to do we need a policy to really help us enforce good governing. And that's what this is just being good stewards over the time and the people that we are putting in place. So to your point.
Okay, I just need to respond.
Hey, Ms. McBride.
Thank you. Of course, I've been on this Rules and Appointments Committee a number of times, and I'm well-versed on the qualifications and expectations. Now, on some committees, there are certain qualifications that you have, but not on all of them. So in this particular case, I'm talking about if you were referring to the ones that didn't have the qualifications.
Noted.
We already have committees with qualifications, so I didn't want to expand that to include those committees where there are general requirements that are needed. So that's the difference. Okay.
Ms. Newton, and then Ms. English.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the Rules and Appointments Committee for all of the work that you've done. I won't repeat ad nauseum everything that others have said, but I do think that, as Mr. Pugh said, when we have knowledge and information that can be helpful, I think it's great for us to share, and not just about candidates, but sometimes it's just helpful to know the context of what's happening. This organization is going through a strategic plan. This organization is trying to purchase a new facility, because sometimes we are blessed with bountiful, wonderful, passionate applicants, and having that background helps. I just wanted to echo one point that Ms. Terracio made that's not really a policy matter, but one of those practice matters, that I do think it would be wonderful for some of our organizations to be more involved in the process as well, in terms of reaching out to us to share that information. This is what we're going through. These are some of the things that we're trying to do on our board. I think that it's helpful to the committee, who has, quite frankly, limited time to spend with these great people who apply for our board. So again, it's not something that needs to be a policy, but I did want to echo that. I know that there's some organizations that do that and others that don't, and having that information or requesting it would be helpful. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome, Ms. Newton. English.
I agree with Ms. Newton. I'm not going to belabor the point, but I want to thank the Rules and Appointments Committee. You answered 90% of my questions about just email and putting this into practice, but I also echo Mr. Pugh's sentiments. And one of the things that I constantly do is encourage those directors of the boards that I sit on to reach out. And that's also a great practice, so they can put into terms or put into your ears the things that they're expecting. And so you also have that, and that's the only thing I wanted to add. Thank you.
Thank you. And we've said a lot about this specific item, and it almost seems as if we are sort of complicating the simple. And I think the gist of the item is, if you are a council member who serves as a liaison to a specific board or commission or committee, the Rules and Appointments Committee is asking that you just provide or give some input as to what the current needs are of that specific entity. If you are the liaison to the library, and maybe the library has a lawyer, an accountant that's serving, someone who's a social worker, maybe the liaison from county council to the library is privy to the preference of the library to actually have someone who's an educator as the next person to fill that vacancy. So I'm not poo-pooing what's been said or what's been offered up by the body tonight, but it just seems like we have really complicated this when really all the committee is asking is if you are someone who serves as a liaison to a specific board and there's a vacancy, we would like for you to offer your input before we begin interviewing applicants so the committee can make an informed decision and make an informed recommendation to the body. So to me, that seems to be pretty plain. But in any event, Ms. Barron, is there anything else you want to see done with this item tonight? Do we need to I guess you'll move on and
I think
and
moving
come back
on
later.
Moving on is perfect.
Yeah, and you can tell me, Ms. Barron, if what I said, did I, am I simplifying it too much?
No, sir. And that's why I did not come. That's why I did not come with the recommendation. But what we did not want to do as a committee is to not bring it back before the body to have without having input, because we didn't want something to die in committee and you all did not have an opportunity to express your sentiments, whether it was good or bad.
Right, because I can actually recall, I believe it was the hospital. This was several months ago, if not nearly a year ago. And one of the things that was communicated, I believe, to the Rules and Appointments Committee was, I think they wanted an accountant or someone with a financial background to fill the vacancy, which I couldn't quite understand because it's a hospital board. I think we had some applicants who were medical doctors. That didn't quite cut it at the time. But in any event, this seems very simple to me, but let's move on. Ms. Barron, you still have the floor.
Thank you. So the next item, which I hold my breath to to do because it did not have a recommendation as well coming out of committee. And so this is one of the items, this has been before this body before, and it did not move forward, but this is a gift that my predecessor left for us, the Honorable will remain nameless, but he left this for us to revisit again. And so we just wanted to bring it back before the body because, again, we did not want full council to say that there was a motion sent to us. We killed it and did not provide input. And this one is to eliminate the requirement for applicants who are applying to serve on boards, committees, or commissions to disclose their age, range, sex during the application process. Appointments are done based upon skills and knowledge. And again, this does not have a recommendation coming out of committee, and we're fine with it not having a recommendation. Let me just say that right now.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Let me open the floor for discussion.
Mr. Chair,
You're recognized, Mr. Wright.
just from a legal standpoint, those are just identifiers. Your age or your sex is not what's used to make the appointment, so there's no legal problem with asking someone to
Disclose their age.
disclose their age or sex on an application. I think that's just identifying the individual.
Right, because you don't want a 16-year-old serving on the airport commission, right?
Right.
All right, Ms. Newton and then Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll just say briefly, also for the public to know as it relates to boards and commissions, that Richland County interviews every single applicant who applies. So we don't make any determinations before we meet people. Every single person gets an interview. And not only does every applicant get an interview, any applicant who's not selected for a board or commission has the opportunity to leave their application on file for a year to be considered again, and of course to apply again, because sometimes we have those cases where you have one opening and you have 12 applicants. That said, I'm not in favor of this motion. With all the boards that I've served on, generally speaking, more data is helpful for a lot of reasons, but I think of one organization specifically that has really an amazing effort for diversity, equity, and inclusion, and it's just helpful to, again, have additional information. So kind of to pick a ridiculous example, if you are the board for new mothers, it helps to know if every applicant is an 85-year-old man, and it doesn't mean that they can't contribute to the conversation or be a wonderful addition to the board. It just helps to know some information about the perspective you might get. And so, again, there's absolutely open doors for every single applicant. And I just think that particularly more for the boards than for us, quite frankly, because we're the people who are appointing their leadership, giving them that additional information about the types of applicants that they're attracting so that they can look at their diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts and see, how they want to do their outreach is helpful. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newton. Mr. Weaver?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I couldn't have said it any better than my colleague, so I will succinctly say I think age and gender need to stay in there. That is all.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver. Ms. McBride?
Chair, I just have a general statement regarding the overall items for discussion under here. My concern was that we not make policy out of everything. So that was and the way you generalized it would be fine because it would not become policy. So that was my concern.
Absolutely. Any additional discussion? So, I guess, is this body prepared to take action with respect to item B2? Is there a motion forthcoming? I mean, from what I'm sort of gleaning from comments that have been made is that we think it's a good idea to divulge, far as the age as well as sex. So, was that currently the status quo? Is that what we're currently doing? Because if that's what we're currently doing, then I don't think a vote is necessary.
Correct.
Okay, all right. All right.
No, it doesn't end my report. I want to talk some more.
You're recognized, Ms. Barron. You've earned that right. You're recognized.
So I do want to take a point of personal privilege, and I mentioned this in our committee meeting earlier, but I think it's important that we lift up the work that our clerk's office do every day. Our past council members that sat on rules and appointment, Councilwoman Mackey has sat on with me the last couple of years, along with former Councilman Bill Malinowski for many years. But when we came on council 3 years ago, we literally had hundreds of applications that were waiting, and we had to do interviews for each one of them. And as of today, we have interviewed everyone and filled all of our positions that are vacant. We do have an advertisement out that will close on April the 21st, on the 21st, and we'll start back interviewing, but we're nowhere near where we were. And so I just want to applaud the staff, applaud past council members who sat on the committee, and really we dug our heels in and got the work done. So thank you to all of you.
You recognize Mr. Livingston?
No, let me say thank you to the committee. In the past, having served on that committee quite a bit, and it's obviously one of the hardest working and most time-consuming committees. So I certainly commend you, but I'm more pleased that I got great folks like you all doing it, so I don't have to do it.
Means that too.
That concludes my report.
All right. Next on the agenda, item 20, report of the Coronavirus Ad Hoc Committee. Ms. Barron, you said you wanted to keep talking, so you are recognized.
Okay, sir, thank you so much. So we're to the point now where we are able to start making some awards for the $16 million that we had set aside for nonprofit organizations in the community. So we have a couple of recommendations coming out of committee today. The first group to be for recommendation is for broadband services. And so the committee is recommending to approve. I'm going to give you the applicants, but just noting that this approval is contingent upon a desk review and making sure that expenditures are qualified. They're qualified and allowable. And with that, we are recommending Columbia International University for broadband expansion for the 4th District of Richland County in the amount of $297,746.13. And again, all of that amount is contingent upon desk review, along with the Richland County Public Library to provide hotspots bridging the digital divide, making the award in the amount of $207,700. That is the recommendation for broadband services to be funded.
Mr. Chair,
You recognize Mr. Wright?
I just want to say, Ms. Barrett, I believe both numbers are up to those amounts, correct?
You are correct, sir. Thank you. Up to that amount.
Ms. Barron, question. With respect to the recommendations of the committee, do you want us to just vote individually on them, or would you rather go through your entire report and then we come back and vote at once? It's your call.
I think it might be to our advantage to do them individually by groups, please.
Okay, absolutely. You've heard the recommendation of the committee with respect to item 20A1. Any questions or discussion? You recognize Mr. Racio.
Would it be possible to divide the two items? I'm sorry to belabor or to cause more votes, but I would like to vote on them separately.
No problem.
Thank
Sure.
you.
So we can, sir. We can take the recommendation, the first recommendation would be for Columbia International University.
Okay, so item 20A1, with respect to Columbia International University, the recommendation of the committee is approval of up to $297,000. So that is the motion. Is there a second?
Second, Mr. Chair.
You know what? This is the report of the committee. We don't
This
need a
is a
motion.
recommendation.
It's a recommendation. My apologies. Any additional discussion or questions on that item? Okay, Madam Chair, not Madam Chair, Madam Clerk, rather. Take the vote, please.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
No.
Weaver,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, with respect to item 20A1, broadband services as it pertains to the Richland County Public Library, the recommendation of the committee is to approve up to $207,700. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes?
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
All right, Mayor?
The next item is for affordable housing. We did in our work session as well as in our committee meeting, had lots of conversation around this topic. And of course, it is a topic that this body feels very passionate about. And so much so that we put forth $4 million in this category, but noting that the applications that we received were not necessarily aligned with the vision that was really forecast initially for this amount. So it is the recommendation of the committee to direct the county administrator to propose a plan to invest $4 million in affordable housing, specifically to add new affordable units to the market.
Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? There being none, you recognize Ms. Mackey?
Thank you. I just wanted to know, was there a specific timeline as to when we would know about the proposed plan for this?
We did not put a proposed deadline there, but Ms. Mackey, we welcome a deadline if you have one in mind. Or
I don't.
Or I'll be
just
glad
was that-
to add one with the input from the administrator. If I may, Mr. Chair, address Mr. Brown.
Sure.
Mr. Brown, would you feel comfortable with giving us a deadline that you would be able to bring that back to the committee?
Yes, ma'am. I think that given the timeline we have now, we have some general information. I think we could have something to you on May 2nd, which I believe is the council's next scheduled meeting. Well, we have to turn that in.
Oh, no, you have to turn it a week before. 10 days before.
So it would.
So the second meeting in May.
Because it would need to come, the plan is going to come back to committee? Or is it coming back to, is it your thoughts that it's coming back to full council, or is it coming back to the committee?
I would like you to make that clear for me. Does it need to come to the committee?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So then the next committee meeting is at the end of.
We don't have a
have
date.
one.
We don't have a date. However, I am comfortable with you stating your original date
About
with
this?
the second.
Yeah. So it would.
The second meeting.
I would, yes, ma'am. I would say with the idea would be to have a committee meeting that would allow for the council to have the information by the second meeting in May.
That works.
Thank you.
That just sounds,
Answer my question.
okay.
It's clear. We just didn't say, would it be helpful if you had a specific date? And so the specific date would be the 16th of May.
If it works for everybody, everyone else loves it. Everyone else likes it, rather, I love it, so. All right. You've heard the recommendation of the committee. Any additional discussion or questions?
Chairman.
You recognize Mr. Weaver.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we say 4 million to add new affordable units, are we talking about assistance or are we talking about construction?
Brown.
So I'm going to address that question as succinctly as possible. There was a conversation about new units, so construction. There was also a conversation about vacant units that are not currently in use that could be remodeled or whatever, that would add new affordable housing unit availability to the available space. So it could be new construction. It could also be taking something that is not currently available to be used and making it available for use.
I think the latter of those two would be a whole lot easier because 4 million for new construction, we'll be talking about this for a long time. That's just my point in the real estate business, Mr. Brown. So that's all, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Additional discussion? All right. Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston.
Yes.
Okay. Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Before we move on to the next item on your report, Ms. Barron, I just want to correct the record, and I'm not sure, Mr. Wright, if this will require, I guess, a mulligan, if you will, in terms of voting again. But I think I said, the request to approve the ARPA dollars for broadband expansion for Columbia International University was $297,000, well, up to $297,000, when in fact that number, to be exact, is $297,746.13. Is it sufficient to just put that on the record, or do we need to vote again? I said 297,000 the first time. That's what I said. I wasn't as specific as I should have been.
No. What I thought we were voting on, though, was the committee's recommendation.
Correct.
Which-
Recommendation.
Which is the
Which is up.
746.
Okay. Well, I know what I said, but if you think it's fine.
I mean, I think if the record reflects that it's the committee's recommendation, then that should be fine.
Let me just say that the record should reflect that the vote was for the committee's recommendation up to $297,746.13. So noted. All right, sorry about that, Ms. Barron. You stay out the floor.
Thank you. The next category is youth and recreation services. This is also a category where the committee felt like some of the applications that we received were not necessarily aligned with what our original intent was. So what we asked the committee members were to submit questions to staff, to submit to the applicants so that we can get a better understanding. We also, as a part of this process, had the staff to request, and Ms. McBride, you're gonna appreciate this, request an abstract for all of the applications that we are considering. And this abstract will be a one-pager that will give information. So for youth and recreation services, we're collecting more information. And then as it relates to senior assistance, we had to table the item because we did not have a quorum. Mr. Chair, that does conclude my report.
Barron, I think there's item 5, nonprofits.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
Please
No,
forgive me.
No, that's okay. Go ahead.
Please forgive me. So, and then the last category is for nonprofits. And with the nonprofits, it is the recommendation that we approve the expenditures for the following groups. And again, please keep in mind that desk reviews are going to take place, and these amounts could be significantly lower depending on allowable costs. The first item is cooperative ministries to be awarded up to $138,091.20. Epworth Children's Home to be awarded up to $131,991. And then lastly, the Midlands Mediation Center to be awarded up to $130,000. And again, we are taking in, we've asked for some questions to be sent to the Columbia City Ballet. And the administrator and his team are taking care of those items. And so we've asked, we did ask that the committee members submit their questions by the 12th to ACA Thomas. We've gotten those in, and so at this point, there's still some gathering that we have, but we did not want to hold up the nonprofit category, and we would like to make recommendations for items 1, 2, and 3, cooperative ministries, Epworth Children's Home, and the Midlands Mediation Center.
All right. Heard the recommendation of the committee. Any questions or discussion? You recognize Ms. English and then Ms. McBride.
I'm just curious. Aaron, I didn't hear senior assistant at the services.
So these are the categories that we have before this body right now, are the categories that we've already gone through. We still have other categories to go through, and the committee did not want to hold up these items, but we wanted to give staff the opportunity to go ahead and start the vetting process, the desk reviews, and start to make awards. And then at our next committee meeting, we will move forward with the other categories.
Thank you for that clarification.
Ms. McBride?
Thank you. Mr. Chair, I just want to thank the committee for the work that they have done thus far, as it's no secret that I've had major problems with the overall ARPA grant process, but I do find that efforts are being put in place to correct some of those issues that I initially had identified. So I just thank the committee, administration for taking a second look and trying to improve the process. So I just want to say thank you for that.
Any additional discussion, questions? Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes?
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Sorry, just for clarification, it's 1, 2, and 3. Those are the only ones we're voting on right now.
correct.
Excellent. Yeah, so,
Cooperative Ministry, Epworth Children's Home, and Midlands Mediation Center.
gotcha. Well, A5, which would be, I guess, according to what's on the screen, 1, 2, and 3, but yes. Yeah.
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Oh, Ms. Barron?
Barron, yes. Okay. Barron,
Okay. That is recorded.
yeah.
Ms. Barron, any of these items need to be reconsidered, or is that necessary?
Is it necessary, Mr. Attorney?
Right, no, this is, there's still a process to go through, so no, it doesn't need to be reconsidered at this point.
Enough, Ms. Barron. Does that conclude your report?
Yes, sir, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Barron. Now, Mr. Pugh, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to congratulate the Coronavirus Committee. They've done a wonderful job. It's been chaired by Ms. Barron. Ma'am, you've done a wonderful job of making sure that we get everything that we need when it comes to this virus that kind of paused us in life for a minute. And I'm also excited that we have barriers that have been removed, and I can touch my colleagues and I can lean over and all that good stuff. So, we can continue to see progress, and I want to just say thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Pugh. Next item on the agenda is item 21, other items, and let me just say that I would gladly
Chair?
welcome a motion to.
Mr. Chair?
You're recognized, Ms. Newton.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move to approve items 21A through C.
Second?
Move to properly second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote, please.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston,
Yes.
Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr. Chair,
Gladly recognized, Ms. Newton.
move to reconsider items 21A through C.
Second. All right. Any discussion or questions? Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
No.
Pugh,
No.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
No?
Weaver,
No.
Barron,
No?
Walker,
No.
Mackey,
No?
English,
No.
Newton.
No.
Motion fails.
Next item on the agenda is item 22, executive session. That actually takes us back, in fact, to item 8 on the agenda. As items 8A, B, and C. 8A, the Avalanche Glen Detention Center. 8B, Allen University property request. And 8C, opioid litigation. At this time, I entertain a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved to property second. Any discussion? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We're now in executive session. right, I entertain a motion to come out of executive session.
So moved.
Second?
Been moved to properly second. Any discussion? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver, Walker,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Let the record reflect that council went into executive session pursuant to South Carolina Code 30-4-70 with respect to items 8A, B, and C on the agenda. We took those items as information only, as well as receive legal advice tonight, and no action was taken in executive session. Also, let the record reflect that Councilman Pugh went into executive session as well, but he did come out of executive session before we began discussion with respect to item 8B, and he is on record as recusing himself with respect to that specific item. All right.
Chair?
Rod, you recognized?
Yes, I have a motion for item 8B.
Okay.
I move to authorize the county administrator and the county attorney to accept the most recent monetary offer from Allen University to purchase property at 1741 Cushman Drive in condition as is.
Second.
Properly second. Any discussion? All right, there being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Hughes.
McBride,
Yes.
Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
Next item on the agenda is item 23. It's the motion period. Ms. Mackey, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have submitted a motion requesting to direct the county administrator to add paid parental leave as a benefit available to all full-time Richland County employees, and to update the employee handbook with a policy that reflects a minimum of 6 weeks of available paid parental leave, with the goal of an implementation date of January 1st, 2024. This motion aligns with the county's current strategic plan that County Council voted on and is currently working through different initiatives. The strategic plan objective 6.2 is focused on encouraging investments in employee and county development. Last year, this council voted unanimously to add Juneteenth as a holiday, a paid holiday for our employees, and we continue to look for ways to continue to add additional benefits to support Richland County employees, to also to retain them and to recruit new ones. And so tonight, I'd ask that my fellow council members would unanimously approve my motion to add paid parental leave as a benefit for all Richland County full-time employees. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I have a question. Mr. Wright, from a procedural standpoint, do we need unanimous consent for it to be considered, or with unanimous consent, we can just straight vote on it?
Well, if you, first of all, what you need to do is, I guess, vote to take it up. And if you take it up with unanimous consent, you can actually do it, approve it.
After the vote, if the vote results in unanimous consent, we can then actually vote, on the actual item, okay? Well, is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved to properly second. Any discussion? All right, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride, Livingston, Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes?
Motion approved.
I entertain a motion, for approval with respect to item 23A.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for approval for motion 23A related to paid parental leave for all full-time Richland County employees.
Properly second. Any discussion? Ms. Newton, you're recognized. And
And-
then Mr. Livingston.
Thank you. And then just for the record, that with approval of this motion, what then happens next is that the administrator prepares the plan and then brings it back to this body for our acceptance. Just having that on the record.
Got a question or statement or request for clarification, I guess, Ms. Newton?
It's all of those things.
Mr. Brown, help us.
Ms. Newton said it out well.
Okay. Livingston? All right, any additional discussion or questions on this item? There being none, Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston. Yes. Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
Mr. Chair?
Recognize Ms. Mackey.
Thank you. I just want to thank all of my colleagues for everyone voting unanimously on this. I think this is a truly great benefit to offer employees. We have a lot of working families, and I think this is a great benefit to add, and we look forward to being able to implement this next year after the administrator develops the full process and updates the employee handbook. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mackey. Next item on the agenda, 24, adjournment. Entertain a motion.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved to second. That is non-debatable, so Madam Clerk, take the vote.
Brenham,
Yes.
Pugh,
Yes.
McBride. Yes. Livingston. Yes. Teratio,
Yes.
Weaver,
Yes.
Barron,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mackey,
Yes.
English,
Yes.
Newton.
Yes.
Motion approved.
We are adjourned.